My name is Patrick Hawes, and I'm sitting now as part of the ACDA, the American Choral Directors Association conference. I came over from England on Monday. In England, I'm quite well known as a composer. I began my life as a teacher of music in English, but discovered I had something of a gift for writing music. And I've been writing music, I should think, for about 30 years now. And I had my big breakthrough in England with my debut album, Blue in Blue, which was made CD of the Week on Classic FM, which is the big classical radio station in the UK. The next big thing I did was to write a piece of music for Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales, for his 60th birthday. And that gave me quite a big profile. This was a piece about his gardens in his house in Gloucestershire, Highgrove House, and so I called the piece the Highgrove Suite, and that is written for harp and string orchestra. But I'm best known, I think, in England for choral writing, and for a long time I have felt, and other people have felt, that my music should be heard more in America. Partly because in America you love choral music, and partly because my musical style is a style, I think, which the Americans will like. Why? Because it's open and honest. As a person, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I think my music is on my sleeve as well. And so far, so good. My latest album, Revelation, is being published by Walton Music, that great publisher of choral music in the States. And I'm hoping, and they're hoping, that my music now begins to reach a much wider audience in this great country, the United States of America. My new album on the Naxos label is Revelation. And it's called Revelation because the first 9 tracks of the album are taken from the book of Revelation. And then I also set the 8 verses of St. Matthew's Gospel, which form the Beatitudes. And then there are some standalone pieces. But on the Revelation album, we really have a setting of text from Revelation itself and the Beatitudes. Now, why Revelation? Lots of reasons. Revelation is the last book of the Bible, of the New Testament, and so I believe there's something really finite about it, and I believe it leaves human beings with a real sense of what's to come, what's beyond. And so one of the movements, for instance, is called Coming with the Clouds, and it's all about the second coming of Christ. But in Revelation as well, you've got so much drama and so much pictorial imagery. You've got the detestable beast, you've got thunderstorms, you have that at one extreme, and then at the other extreme you've got great beauty and tenderness, particularly in the text, worthy is the Lamb that was slain. And indeed, I set that as the 4th movement of Revelation. And you know, I believe too that we are a generation on earth in the 21st century which is longing for revelation. More than ever before, I think. We want to know what the answers to these great eternal questions are. We want them to be revealed. And so I think it's a great title for an album, Revelation, for that very reason. But to talk about the Beatitudes, they as well, of course, are a key text from the New Testament, but totally different in character. Whereas the text from Revelation is very dramatic and exciting and full of colour and variation and contrast, the Beatitudes are beautifully calm and still, and they speak in very simple language of human truths. Truths like those who mourn will be comforted. I mean, how amazing is that? And the pure in heart will see God. These are essential sound bites for our time. And because they're quite short and simple, they lend themselves to a very beautiful, pure type of musical setting, which can appeal to people right across the board, to classical experts, but also to those people who know very little about classical music. And so I hope this is an album which will find its way into the hearts of many different Americans and people across Europe, and give them some hope and solace in this difficult world in which we live. I'm often asked about my most recent work, and shortly after I wrote Revelation, I was asked to write a piece of music for the King Singers, that great musical group, which actually evolved in Cambridge in England, but is now a worldwide musical phenomenon, really. And I was asked to write a piece of music for them, and I chose a great text called Musica Dei Donum, which is a very old poem in Latin. And in English, it really means music, the gift of the supreme God. And the poem talks about how music can move. It says music can even move wild beasts and can comfort those who are in great distress. And so I've written two versions of it, one called Musica Dei Donum in Latin, and that was premiered in January 2017 in Venice. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there. I really wanted to go, but it met with great success, so I believe. And then there's an English version, which I've called The Gift of Music, and that is being premiered by the King Singers in Holland in May 2017. And that one I do hope to be at. People often ask me what it was like to write a piece of music for Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales. And my answer is, it was the most amazing experience of my life. The phone rang one day in 2008, and I was asked if I'd like to write a piece of music to celebrate Prince Charles's 60th birthday. And I said, yes, I would like to, thank you very much. And the Prince of Wales, as we call him in England, in America he's really known as Prince Charles, isn't he? Well, Prince Charles's main hobby is horticulture. He loves gardening, and he has this amazing garden at Highgrove House in Gloucestershire. And I thought, if I'm going to write a piece of music for him, it's got to be about his garden. So I visited his garden. I was given free access for a day, and I looked around and I found this area called the Stumpery, which is kind of gnarled old bits of tree trunk and lots of ferns and quite dark and damp. And in the middle of it sits a statue which the Prince commissioned called the Goddess of the Woods. And so I called this piece of music Goddess of the Woods. And it's written for harp and string orchestra. And when it was performed at Covent Garden in November 2008, I spoke to the Prince afterwards, and we decided it would be good to extend this one piece into a 4-movement suite. And so I had a private audience with him at Highgrove, and we discussed the areas of the garden where I should go and get some inspiration. And so I went on to write a piece of music about the wildflower meadow and about the gladiator statue, which is at the head of the Tyne Walk, borders of the herb thyme, beautiful to look at and to smell. And also a piece of music about his sanctuary, which is a little wooden hut, really, that he built in a quiet part of the garden in the year of the millennium. And that's where he goes and prays and has his quiet moments. And engraved around the sanctuary are the words, "Lighten our darkness, we beseech thee, O Lord," which are famous words from one of the collects for evening prayer from the English Book of Common Prayer. And when I wrote that music, I had those words in my mind. And then we premiered the work in June 2010 in the Orange Room at Highgrove House in the presence of Prince Charles and Camilla. And that for me was the greatest honour of my life. Well, before I leave you all, I want to thank various people. I want to thank my manager, Andy, who's with me in America, who helped to set up this interview. I want to thank Barry for being behind the camera. I'm behind the mic, Barry's behind the camera, and Alton, who is the brainwave behind the mic. And I'd like to thank him for having the trust in me to come and sit and talk to you. And also, as this conference goes on around us at ACDA, I want to thank Susan Labar and Alec Harris from Walton GIA Music for inviting me to America, for publishing my music, and for hopefully for allowing you people out there to hear what I've got to write, as well as what I've got to say.